Hi folks, so today I'm going to show you how to digitally manipulate your mark making artwork on Photoshop. Although this is aimed at the digital manipulation of mark making, you can apply these techniques to any kind of imagery manipulation, so it can be applied to all levels of art and design. On the previous video, we looked at how to take an image and get it onto your OneDrive. What I'm asking you to do now is two things. One, open up Photoshop, and two, locate that image on your OneDrive. Once your Photoshop has opened, you're just going to go to File and open up that image, just similar to what I'm doing on screen just now. When you click open, it may take a wee while. Photoshop is sometimes quite slow. It should appear on your screen like this. Yeah, that's better. What I'm then going to ask you to do is to make sure that you have the layers menu open on your screen. It will be over at the right hand side here where I'm circling my cursor at the moment. If it is not on your screen, you'll need to open that window. So if you go back to your main screen and go to window, you should simply just go down to the word layers, and it probably won't have a tick next to it. So you want to make sure it's got that tick next to it. Okay. You will notice over at your layers menu, if I draw your attention to that there's a wee padlock. I'd like you to double click that and select OK, and that'll unlock that padlock on that layer. And what I'd like you to do at this point is to duplicate that layer. So you're going to do that by right clicking, and you're going to go up to, sorry folks, duplicate layer on the screen here. It's going to ask you for that, so you can just put copy one. Or, yeah, we'll go with copy one just now. And you'll see immediately that there's two layers on here. I'd then go and do another one, so I'd probably go back to it and then duplicate that layer again. So copy two. Okay. Alright. So that means in our layers menu, we now have the original layer, layer 0, copy 2 and copy 1. I'm going to select that original layer. And I'm going to select the padlock. We're going to lock that layer again. We don't want anything to happen to it. And when you've locked that layer, you will notice the wee padlock appears on the screen. Okay. Now, the layers menu is really, really important, because whatever is highlighted blue, that is the layer that you're working on. And you always want to be working on whatever layer is at the top. And the reason for that is if you select layer 2, it's not going to change anything on your screen. If you imagine these layers being sheets of paper and the bottom layer is the bottom of the pile, then copy 2 on this layer list here is a sheet of paper that's stacked on top of that. And then copy 1 is the sheet of paper that's stacked on the very top. If you were to start cutting or colouring in things that are happening on layer 2 in the middle, you're not going to be able to see that, because you've got copy 1 sitting on top of it. So layers and what layer you're working on is going to be the root of most of your problems that you might run into if you say certain things aren't working. So always go back to checking what layer you are working on. Okay, so for the purpose of this video, I'm going to select copy 1, and there are lots of things that we can do here on Photoshop. It's a fabulous tool for manipulation. I'm going to take you across to these areas at the top here. So we've got image, we've got filter, select, analysis, view. The ones that we're going to focus on today will be image and filter. Okay, so we're going to start with image, and what we can do is we can go to adjustments. So if we go to adjustments and just hover our cursor there, we get loads and loads of bits of information that we could start to experiment with. We can play with the colour balance, we can play with the brightness and contrast, we can make it black and white. You'll see that we can apply various photo filters add exposures and highlights, for example. So what I think I'll start off with doing is I'm going to go into, I think I'll go into my colour balance. Now this is a lovely wee tool. We can click and drag our box to the side. And what I can do, in fact, if I bring my box back to the middle, just so that you can see the options here, we can play about with the levels of the cyan and the red, the magenta and the blue, and the yellow and the blue, and we can increase the density of these and decrease that. So what I'll do is I'll drag this box to the side just so you can see what happens when I manipulate these things to the actual image. So at the moment I am going to increase the red, and you can see my image is getting much warmer. I can then continue to increase warm colours by moving towards the magenta, and I can do the same by scrolling towards the yellow. If I wanted, I could move it the opposite direction and I could play with the blue, I could play with the green, and I could play with the cyan. Yeah, have a wee go with playing with that first of all. Okay, welcome back. Hope you've had a wee chance to play with that. I'm now going to, I'm just bringing it back a wee bit. I'm not putting it back to normal, but I'm going to go into my filters now. So it's looking quite cold on my screen. I'm going to go back to my image and go to my adjustments, and then I'm going to go to my hue and saturation. I quite like playing with this one. On the hue and saturation, it's going to ask you if you want to adjust the hue, adjust the saturation, or adjust the lightness of your image. So by increasing the saturation, you're going to increase the intensity of the colour, and you can see when I drag that right up to 100%, that it's really pulled out those colours and really exaggerated them into something that looks quite graphic and quite funky. I could then equally play with the hue by either decreasing it and it almost looks neon, or again increasing it, and you can see that it's really bringing out those kind of yellows and reds. I quite like it about there. You can decrease the lightness, so you're almost creating some kind of negative print, or you could increase the lightness where you really start to blow out features of the background on this. I'm going to bring it down. I quite like the dark colours showing through, and then you can hit OK. Alright, you could then go back to image and go into your adjustments again, and you could play with anything else that you quite fancied on here. I think this time what I'll do is I'll have a wee look at a photo filter, and here you can choose to apply warming filters, cool filters. I'm going to choose this filter called Sepia, and what I can do is increase the density of that. You can see at the moment the sepia is sitting at 25%, so you can either physically type in and change the value, or you could click and drag and really increase it. And although you maybe can't see this as well on my screen, if you were to experiment with this at home, you'll see that it creates an effect which is really quite vintage in its style. It looks like a very vintage print, and I really quite like that. So I'm going to hit OK with that, and I'm quite happy where that's looking just now. Okay. Now I'm going to take you back to the layers. So we can see that in this layer at the moment, we've been working on that top layer, and we're going to continue to do that. But we all know we've got this sheet of paper underneath, and at the bottom layer we've got another sheet of paper, but we've locked that so that we're not going to do anything to that. To prove that that's still there, what I'm going to do is over at my layers, there's a wee eye here, and that means that you can indicate the visibility of that layer. If I turn that off so that we can't see that top sheet of paper, it immediately brings us back to the original layer below it, unchanged. So you can see how the original artwork has been manipulated to something really quite different. Now, I like aspects of this artwork, but I also quite like aspects of the artwork underneath. So I want to try and collaborate those two ideas together, and there are different ways in which you can do that, but one of my most favourite ways to do it is to simply by using over in our tools section at the side, if I go down to my tools and I select the eraser tool, when I select the eraser tool, it comes up saying eraser, background eraser, magic eraser. I'm just looking for the standard eraser tool. And up at the top, what I can do is I can increase and decrease the diameter of that. You can see at the moment the diameter of mine is really quite significant and quite big. I'm not needing something quite as big as that. I'm going to move it down to maybe something round about 400 looks quite good. Yeah, I think, I'll maybe increase it a wee bit. Round about 500, all right, just under it. And then the hardness of the effect of the rubber, you can change that. I really like quite a soft approach. I would move your cursor from the hardness down from 100% down to the bottom. And the reason for that is when we are going to apply the eraser, it's going to create a sort of soft edge and it's not going to be quite harsh. You can see examples of it in the diagrams below, where if you look at number 19, that's quite a solid and clean cut circular shape, whereas if you look at the ones below it, it's quite soft and diffused around the edge of the circular shape, and that's the effect I want to try and grasp when I'm applying the rubber to the artwork. So I'm now happy with the rubber that I've selected, and I've changed the diameter to one that I feel is going to work for this drawing, and I can quite simply click carefully on the artwork. And what's happening here is it's deleting some of it, but you can see that nice soft finish. It's not making it too harsh, but what it's doing is it's deleting the layer I'm working on. So as you can see, I'm on layer 1. So it's deleting some of the layer I'm working on, allowing that layer below to start to show through. So you could be quite experimental with this and really start to collaborate and manipulate different ideas to create a new print and creation. And it's starting to look a bit like an X-ray or something. Maybe just put one in there. Yeah, I really quite like where that's going. I think it just needs a wee something up here. If at any point you don't like what you've done, you can just press Ctrl-Z. If you need to move back a couple of stages, you can press Ctrl-Alt-Z, or you can simply go to Edit and, step backward. Felt that was too much up there, or it was in the wrong place. Yeah. And you can see there that you've then created something quite effective. So I'm now going to link those layers together because I've now edited the top layer and the layer below it. So I'm going to select both using my Shift key on my keyboard and selecting both of the actual layers. And then what I can do is I can right click that and I can merge those layers together. So when I merge those layers, I'm almost compressing the sheets so that they become one. So they're no longer two different sheets of paper, they are now one sheet of paper. Okay, so that's one form of digital manipulation, just simply using the rubber and using image and adjustments. I'm now going to demonstrate how we can do it using our filter column and the different filters and effects that you could use to apply an effect. So I'm going to go back to my original layer, which is locked, and I'm going to double click that and I'm going to unlock that layer. And similar as we did at the start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer and I'm going to call this one filter just so that you can see the difference. You don't get mixed up. So we've got our filter layer and I'm going to go back to that original layer and I'm going to lock it. So I'm never really editing the original sheet of paper. I'm experimenting with additional layers. Okay. So I can then turn off the view for the top sheet. It's still there, but I can turn it off. And then I can select that middle layer because that's the layer I want to be working on. So I want to see what's happening simply on that layer. Okay. Taking us back to our main screen, I'm going to go to filter and I'm going to look at all the different options that I can do. So I could apply neon glows, paint dabs, palette knives, sponges, I can apply blurs, different brush strokes. I can make it look like glass, ripple effects. I can apply different lighting effects. But the one I think I really want to show you, it's one of my favourite ones to use, is this one here under Stylize, and it's glowing edges. I just really love this one. I'm going to click on it. It'll take a wee minute to load, but you'll probably end up with this crazy full screen. And obviously you can't really see what's happening here. So what to do is at the bottom, if you just see my cursor circling, it says 100%. If you just move back, you could see, oh, it's maybe a wee bit too far back. You can see the full image on the screen and what it has already done to that. But we're not done there. Of course, we can edit how that looks. So we might then go over to the edge width and we can increase that or decrease it. We can increase the brightness of the edge or decrease that. And you will see it's taking a wee while to load, so that one's maybe gone too extreme. So let's bring the width down. Keep the brightness up, but maybe decrease the width. Oh, I quite like where that's going. That's looking nice. Right, and then we could again play with the smoothness of it. We could increase the smoothness or decrease. I'm actually going to decrease the smoothness of it because I want it to look quite mechanical and pixelated, quite rough. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to hit OK. You'll see this work has changed to this. Again, you can do many different things on filter. You can play about with it and distort it. You might choose to, if we go into artistic and we apply, what will we try? Grain. Did say I wanted it quite rough. Can then move back. And the other thing I should have said was here in that list you can try the different options at the side. You will see them on your page. So if the one that you selected didn't give the effect you desired, you could select things like neon glow. Yeah. And then what we could do is change that. So you could change the glow colour. You could change it to a colour that you feel is more appropriate. You watch it change. And you could then increase the glow size. You can see the effect that that's having there. You could increase or decrease the glow brightness. So I might increase the brightness actually, but decrease the glow size so that it's sharper. And there is no right answer and no wrong answer. This is supposed to be highly experimental. Alright? And what I would then suggest you could do is you could turn your original sheet back on. Alright? And this time you could absolutely go over and edit with your eraser like you did before, making sure that top layer is the one that's selected, and you could start to bring through some of that neon layer from below. You might not put it everywhere, but maybe just some accents. Oh, don't like that one. And again, as I said, if you don't like bits, you just delete them. That's the beauty of this. And this is almost starting to look like a kind of computerized print, which it should because we're working on a computer. Okay. Now, once you are 100% happy with your print, you would then merge those layers together as we did before so they become one sheet. And you're going to go to File and you're going to go to Save As. Once you save the document, make sure that it's initially saved as a PSD file and name it Print1. And then could you go back in and save it again, please? And for the second time, could you change the PSD file to a JPEG? To a JPEG option. all right? Now, the reason I'm asking you to do both is the PSD file means it's a Photoshop file that can still be edited, but it takes up a lot of space, whereas the JPEG is a compressed image and it's ideal for printing. The reason I want you to have both is in case there is anything you wish to go back and change. If you compress it down to a JPEG, you cannot change anything on that document. Okay, so that's really important. Right, I am looking for you to produce a series of these using various manipulations, and that will count towards the outcome for the NPA Art and Design, and we will take that forward for print resolutions for our design brief, which is in the next phase of the course. Thank you.